Here is your rounding decimal places 5 a day. And let's go through the answers. You might have forgotten how to do this, which is fine, but hopefully you've had a go. So rounding to 3 decimal places means that we start at the decimal point here, and then we count 1, 2, 3 places, and so the number that we write is going to be something 0.123 digits. Now, because after the 2 is a 9, I know that this is actually closer to the 3 than the 2 in the thousandths column. So we have 3.153. If you weren't sure what I was talking about there, let's imagine instead we're talking about 2.9. Here is the number 2, here is the number 3. 2.9 is all the way here, much, much closer to the 3. We can split our line up, and in the middle here is 2.5. And everything from 5 and upwards is closer to the 3 than it is to the 2. I know the 5 is the same distance from the 2 as from the 3, but we just say that we round that one up. So looking at the next one, we're going to have something point something something. The 9 is going to stay the same, 4, then we have a 9 here as our second decimal place. After the 9 is a 7. That means instead of being closer to 9, it's close to the next 10. So we can look at this whole thing here. We've got 49, so it rounds up to 50. Now we don't say 9.50, we say 9.50. It's a good idea when we're rounding with decimal places. If you're told to round to decimal places, put the 0 in there. Even though normally we would just write 9.5, it shows that you have considered that you were rounding it to 2 decimal places. In this situation, 2 decimal places, I have a 9. After the 9, I have another 9. So this 9 rounds up to the next 10. The next 10, we can see we've got 99 here, actually rounds up to the next 100. So for this one, we would get 8.00. Here, we have a 1 in our third decimal place. So this is just closer to 7.99. And now a reminder, these dots, that means 0.494949, carrying on forever. So to round this to 3 decimal places, have a look at what comes after. Have a 9, so we round it up. So today, we're not actually looking at rounding to decimal places, we're looking at rounding to significant figures and why we use them. So here is a number, and we're going to look at how we round it to different amounts of significant figures. One significant figure means there is one digit that's not 0, and all of the rest are zeros just to keep it in the right place. So starting from the left-hand side, like you normally read, I look at the first number. It's a 7 in this case, but the 7 represents 700,000. I've got to decide whether this is closer to 700,000 or 800,000. So I look at the next digit, which is an 8. That's past halfway, so to one significant figure, we've got 800,000. Two significant figures, I have 1, 2, reading from the left, then I look at the next one to see whether I round up or round down. This is a 3, so I round down to 780,000. 3 significant figures, 1, 2, 3 figures. Look at the next one, it's a 9, so that means I round up to 784,000. Now, the reason why we use significant figures is sometimes we don't need to know a number precisely. So this number that I've given you here is the number recently of people who have died from coronavirus, from COVID-19. Now, while each of those individual lives is really important, us knowing that it's 783,910 isn't that useful. And because it's changing on a minute by minute basis as well, it's not so useful for us to know the really small parts of those numbers. However, if we were just told over the world 784,000 people have died from COVID-19, then that gives us an idea that we can have a picture in our head. So the numbers that you hear in the news often are rounded, often to 1, 2, or 3 significant figures. So I'd like you to pause the video while you have a go at rounding these numbers here to 1, 2, and 3 significant figures. You don't need to copy the whole table out, just have a go at writing the numbers down. Okay, and you should have got the following. So you can see that one significant figure doesn't tell us that much. Like 10,000 is quite far away from 14,900, but 15,000 does give us quite a bit of information about this number. Similarly, the 2 significant figures gives us a good amount of information without being too complicated. 3 significant figures is useful, it's starting to get a bit specific. Okay, now often we write numbers in scientific notation and then round them because this makes it easier for us to compare numbers. So in this example here, I have 276 million. I'm going to start by writing it in scientific notation. So this is 2.76 times 100 million, which is 2.76 times 10 to the power of 8. I now need to round to 2 significant figures. That means I'm going to have 2 non-zero digits. I have the 2, the 7. I have a look at the next digit, it's a 6, so I round the 7 up to an 8. And you can see these wiggly equals signs here, which means approximately equal to 2.8 times 10 to the power of 8. Pause the video now while you have a go at this one. So if we write it in scientific notation, we can see this 3 is a 100,000, so it's 3.8544 times 10 to the power of 5. Then rounding it to 2 significant figures, I've got 3.8. I look at the next digit, it's a 5, so I round my 8 up to a 9. Here I have a really small number. So writing it in scientific notation, I'm going to have 6.97 times 10 to the power. My 6 has moved from the units column all the way down to the 10 millionths column. This would be, I think, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths, millionths, the 10 millionths column. So that would be 6.97 times 10 to the power of negative 7. And then rounding it to 2 significant figures, I go 1, 2, I have a 7 here, so I round up. My 9 rounds up to a 10, so that 69 here turns into a 70. I use my approximately equals 2 sign. Pause the video while you have a go at this one. So I have 6.54 times 10 to the power of negative 4. This is in my tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10 thousandths column. And so rounding the 4 rounds the 5 down, or rounds down to a 5. So we get 6.5 times 10 to the power of negative 4. Pause the video now while you have a go at these 3 questions. And these are your answers. Now, if you have some time and a calculator, have a go at these questions. You've got to be really careful with the way you put these into your calculator. And so if you answer one of these questions and then check your answers here, and you've got it wrong, then what I would like you to do is take a photo of what you typed into your calculator and send it to me, and I can explain to you why your calculator has given you a different answer. That's only if you have time. What we're also going to do is have a discussion about these measurements here. I'll talk to you more about that live in the lesson, but you can have a read of them now if I haven't got to that stage yet. Thank you.